just sending out a tweet. Fucking gay. Sorry, dead air. Fucking dead
all
air.
good. It's all good. We're on.
Dad, what do you want me to talk about?
We're almost there.
Yo, Mom. Actually, bro, you're kind of quiet. You want to bring your volume up a little bit?
Put your mouth closer to the mic.
Hold on. Is that any different?
Slightly. Are you on one of those Bluetooth headsets on your phone? Yo,
No,
Sentry.
I'm on the same headset, but it's different phone. I don't know.
You're getting in a little bit clearer. If you go to the Discord settings, you can kind of tweak the output a little bit, but you can also it'll sometimes say like use speaker, and I turn that setting off all the time.
Okay, hold on one sec.
Don't you just love it?
All right, and then let me drag over the graphic here. Oh, hey, did you get that promo by chance, or did Photoshop take a shit on you?
Photoshop took a shit on me, unfortunately.
Oh man, it's too bad you aren't German.
Eh.
Is this any different? Hello. Is that any different?
I mean,
Little.
all right.
Little.
You're like, no.
I don't want to break your heart, bro. Sorry, man.
All right, are we all...
Hold on, we'll
Okay, give us...
Turn
Let's
boss
try to
down
get
a
it-
little bit
get
on
it
my
up.
end so that he doesn't reverb, and I'm gonna jack you up a little bit. Yo, boss, I think you can control his.
Oh yeah, there we
his
go.
output locally, so you might
Yeah,
be
start
able to boost him
talking.
up a little
Start talking, Sentry.
Alright, can you hear me any better?
Right now.
Any better now?
Okay, you're at 200%, so I think that's about as good as we're gonna be able to get you.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
works for
man.
me.
I don't know. It's weird.
It's all cool, brother.
How am I doing? Is my volume too low, too loud?
Nah,
not clear
you're
enough?
good. You're good. We're good to go, honestly.
All right. Let me check where we're at.
Oh my gosh, this is the first phone I bought that doesn't have a headphone jack, and it's like the worst thing in the universe.
Welcome to the future.
God, I
How
was
much
like,
you go up your channel page?
so I didn't know that it didn't have a headphone jack, and then I looked in the box and I saw one of those little fucking dongles, and I was like, what the fuck is that dongle for? Oh my god, no!
Too many dongles. All right. So, give me the word, and we'll be all quiet.
So we got Twitch up, we got Stream Me up. Did you say that we were on Periscope as well?
Yep. Under my account. So we'll have to switch that over to the actual Twitter account for the show. We'll do that in a little bit.
Yeah, we can do that next show, I think.
Yeah, no
that'd be-
problem. No problem.
Fuck it.
All right.
All right, my dude. Are you ready?
I
You good
believe
with
we
this?
are. Let's get started then. All quiet on the Western Front, please.
I'm gonna put on push to talk.
All right, Brittle. All quiet on the Western Front. Stand by. Howdy there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Friday, February the 15th, 2019. This is General Tweed speaking. Got Solid MAGA with us, along with Sentry. And welcome to Sublime News. Ah, man, that was a big build-up for that, eh?
I know. Huge build-up. Looks like we got some Fortniters in the Twitch chat.
Alright, nice. No, we're not going to be playing Fortnite. We're going to be presenting you with a whole bunch of information that you're going to love.
Yo, I actually was thinking about playing that Apex Legends, I gotta be honest. Although, I'm a little salty they didn't come out with Titanfall 2.
I still gotta play Titanfall 1.
Fantastic game.
Just got the Spoderman game, but that'll be something.
We've been gone for a long time.
Oh yeah, a couple of weeks, because my PC shot out on us.
Yeah, it was mine?
It hella died. I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah, that was a very disheartening while there, but hey, we got through it. Thanks to the help of some very fine friends, thank you.
Oh man, that was a rough time. But hey, I got a new computer out of it, and yours is working.
And everything was right with the world once again.
So
I wanted to buy a new computer, but now I have a new phone, and I didn't want a new phone. I wanted my old phone. Damn.
Well, welcome to the future. Alright, so what you got for us today?
Well, just like our normal stuff, I think we're going to start up with North Korea. It's been a little while since North Korea has been like, front page news, all this border shutdown talk. We're going to get to that later. And there was a lot of movement on that today. But let's get started with the Asia Pacific area. And the first thing that we want to take a look at here is Arang News has a little clip for us. It's kind of long. We probably won't watch the whole thing. But they're talking about potentially what we're looking at with the Korea summit that's coming up here in a few days. All
right, well, let's check it out then.
For more, we have joining us today Dr. Ko Myung-hyun, a research fellow from the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. It's good to have you back on the show.
My pleasure.
So Pompeo has said they will try to go, if I quote directly, as far down the road as they can before the meeting between Kim Jong-un and Trump in just under 2 weeks' time.
Hey, boss, can you boost the volume on that a
little? If I boost the volume on this, it'll boost the volume on everybody.
Leaders actually meet in Hanoi.
I meant on the clip, even on the YouTube, it's a little quiet.
There's a lot of
yeah, I've got it as high as I can, fortunately.
And there seems to be no clear agreement on the
thanks, Arang News.
Steps North Korea is going to take. So I think the United States will try to make that clear.
Have you tested any other clips?
And then come out with a very concrete
no, I haven't. But hopefully nothing should change as much.
I think by that he means that he wants to get at least some concrete denuclearization measures, such as shutting down the Yangbyon or Donghaeri or Pyeongchang test sites. So we'll see what happens. But I think I expect to put a very positive spin.
I guess man, this clip is so quiet. Screw it. We're skipping this clip. We're going to talk about it, but we're going to skip it.
All right, we skip it.
Jesus Christ, how is it so quiet?
It happens.
He's
it
like
happens.
Whispering into the mic.
It's so ridiculous.
Got to be nice. Got to be quiet. All right, so come on. What was that clip supposed to do for us? What was that supposed to tell us?
They're talking about what they're expecting from the new summit. A lot of the summit that they're talking about, like the big important parts, is that apparently America, our beloved country, is talking about maybe giving some unprecedented sanctions, compromises in the North Korea negotiations as far as like denuclearization goes. And I imagine what that's going to be is removing missile systems from the North Korean peninsula.
Ooh, that sounds spicy.
I mean, they're just talking about it. It's just rumor at this point, but it looks like that's the direction that they're kind of headed in, which would be good because, we're kind of looking at down the road, maybe a total Korean reunification.
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? That'd be perfect.
McDonald's.
We're almost there. McDonald's, Starbucks on every corner.
I mean, Kim Jong-un wants some McDonald's.
Does like his rum.
He seems like he's eating fine.
But... Hey, look at that! We got Bella in the chat. Oh, look at that! Oh, we gotta point her out because that's a thing.
All right. Let's test the audio on this next clip. See if it's quiet. If not, we might have to do a little bit of troubleshooting.
All right. Let's see. Moving on.
South Korea's National Assembly Speaker says efforts to
advance
inter-Korean relations are driven by the goal of
all these clips are not this quiet when I listen to them,
as well as for the regime to improve its ties with the U.S. Speaker Moon Hee-sang made the remarks during a speech at the Korea Society a nonprofit organization dedicated to Seoul-Washington relations. He said that Seoul continues to emphasize that without the North's abandonment of nuclear weapons, there will be limitations.
Now, see, I was watching this, and basically they're dead set on denuclearizing North Korean peninsula. So all the bullshit you hear from CNN, all that North Koreans are hiding nukes and everything, everybody's ready to go out.
Advancing at a much faster pace than North Korea-U.S. ties. Speaker Moon stressed that the peace process on the Korean Peninsula is a global peace process and that it's a global peace that South Korea, the U.S., and the international community should striving towards.
With the second Pyongyang, Washington. Damn buttons. All right.
Man, even jacking up your volume is kind of killing it for me.
Did I boost it too high?
No, it's not that your microphone volume is boosted. It's that the media volume is so.
What troubleshoot?
Rocky start. Gotta love it.
I can't. There ain't nothing that I'm gonna be able to do here, boys. I apologize.
How did you have it set up before?
Same way. Like the very same way.
Damn. All right.
Maybe it's just because we're going through Orang News, that, you know, maybe their clips are just lower volume for some reason. Because, you know, different levels for mastering and stuff exist. Not mastery, but mastering in turn, you know, with your audio and everything.
Could be.
You know how it says 0 decibels, negative decibels stuff. I should stop talking.
Did you guys hear about the Vietnam summit that they had? There was a minor Vietnam summit with the North Korean diplomatic counterpart.
I heard nothing about that at all.
Yeah, that got reported in Orang News as well. The clip might be a little quiet, but we should also probably play that one as well. I got a few from there because normally they give us some really good news.
Yeah, if only they weren't so quiet.
I don't understand why it's so quiet. It was really loud when I was listening to it. Didn't seem like it was.
Well, let's push on forward and try again.
With the second Pyongyang-Washington summit to be held in Hanoi less than 2 weeks away, various preparation efforts are underway. The foreign minister of the host country held talks with his North Korean counterpart during a 3-day trip to the
all of it.
Your local
checked all of it.
Work out details, including
checked all of it.
Kim Jong-un's visit to Vietnam.
Gotta trust me, man.
Sang-mi has our top story.
Vietnamese Foreign Minister Pham Binh Minh left Pyongyang on Thursday after his 3-day trip to meet his North Korean counterpart Lee Yong-ho. On Wednesday, on the second day of Minister Pham Binh Minh's visit, the two ministers vowed to build on the friendly ties between their nations that were built by the North's founding leader Kim Il-sung and former Vietnamese leader Ho Chi Minh. According to North Korea's state-run media,
everyone
also shared views
on
on
this deal.
international issues of mutual interest.
Well, you know why they're trying to get in on the negotiation, right?
Because it's a mineral-rich and precious metals-rich peninsula that hasn't been touched in like over 100 years.
Fucking ding.
Including protocol and security for the visit. It also looks likely that Kim will be visiting Hanoi as a guest.
How did I even know that? Man, I thought I was an idiot.
They say that it's the highest concentration of rare earth minerals on the planet.
The main event is the North Korea
So
US
we're talking
summit,
lithium
but it is
for
also
batteries
vital for
and,
Kim to break the tradition
cobalt
of international isolation and display his
everything
status
we
as leader,
need,
which makes his state visit a lot more likely.
The thing is, the North Koreans can't really use it because they don't have the technology to refine it or put it into actual
economic reforms to benchmark the Southeast Asian countries' economic development, which may indirectly.
It's one reason why the Chinese are so dead set on getting.
I didn't use.
Oh. Thank you. All right, so what's next?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about North Korea and South Korea hosting the, I think it's the 2023 Olympics. Have you heard much about that?
I've not heard anything about the Olympics.
So they're trying to make a bid for doing a joint hosting of the world. I think it's the World Olympics. I don't know if it's the Winter Olympics or the regular Olympics, but I found this clip that was kind of interesting. The World Anti-Doping Agency is declaring North Korea non-compliant with their doping policy. So that might actually kind of hurt them a little bit. And it's just a quick 45-second clip.
We have a World Anti-Doping Agency?
Yes, we do.
I learned something new today.
Meanwhile, the World Anti-Doping Agency has declared North Korea non-compliant with its code, announcing the decision in a statement on its website on Wednesday. North Korea's non-compliant status could limit opportunities for the North's athletes to participate in international sporting events. Last September, the World Anti-Doping Agency said it would declare North Korea non-compliant if the regime did not resolve problems in the implementation of its testing program within 4 months. But the deadline passed in January without any action from North Korea. The World Anti-Doping Agency added that it has been notified by the International Olympic Committee that this issue will be discussed at the IOC's meeting with the two Koreas on Friday.
Oop. All right, on to our next clip.
So Japan, not really known for protesting, and this one's kind of a small protest, but there's a major move in Japanese politics right now for marriage equality. They're trying to push for gay and lesbian marriage in Japan, and for it to be recognized, like, legally, and for tax status and whatnot.
You produce all that hentai, you would think that this would already be a given.
It's really funny that you say that, because they produce all that, like, just ridiculous pornography, but it's all censored.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but still, they produce it. I mean, you would still think that this would just be... Yeah, never mind. Let's just play the clip.
Roll it.
Valentine's Day lawsuits demanding marriage equality.
Like the smallest protest ever. It's like the most orderly protest I think I've ever.
Equal marriage rights. And I expect it will take long. Together with sexual minorities all around together, I would like to fight this war. We, the lawyers, are determined that rejection of same-sex marriage is unconstitutional. So I hope you support us.
Thanks, Dad.
Godspeed, we support you.
Should be fun for them. So we're still kind of reporting on North and South Korea, but we're kind of switching gears, completely to Japan here. And one of the things that is going on right now is actually kind of a mirror of what happened between us and Korea. Japan is actually going to be giving up some Korean remains and repatriating them.
Finally, let's...
Efforts by South and North Korea to bring back the remains of Koreans who suffered forced labor in Japan during World War II are bearing fruit. According to South Korean members of the Korean Council for Reconciliation and Cooperation, 74 sets of remains of those who were forced to work for Japanese companies will be returned to South Korea's southern island of Jeju on the last day of this month. The remains will be sent from a temple in Osaka on the 26th.
Giant column.
The handover ceremony will be held the next day. And after a memorial ceremony on March 1st,
I don't understand
the remains will be
enough
kept
about
in a temple
to
on the island. Of the 74 sets of remains, 4 have been determined to be those of North Koreans. The South Korean members will work with the North to send those remains back home.
Note to self, read about the Shinto religion when you have a chance.
Writing that one down.
And like I said before, everyone is trying to get in on these North Korean negotiations. And ironically enough, Shinzo Abe is actually throwing his fucking weight into the ring.
Last year, Japan was urging pressure on North Korea, but now Tokyo has changed its stance. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is calling for a summit with leader Kim Jong-un, and according to local media, Japanese diplomats believe Pyongyang's denuclearization will not be a brisk process.
No, I want to meet him first. No, I want to meet him.
On these developments.
My turn to meet him.
After President Trump meets with Kim Jong-un, the Japanese Prime Minister says it'll be his turn. At a meeting in Parliament on Tuesday, Shinzo Abe said situations surrounding North Korea have
such a
been changing
charismatic
dramatically
guy
since the Singapore summit, and that he thinks it's important that he be next to meet the North Korean leader face to face. Prime Minister Abe said he would try to break through the mutual mistrust and work to resolve the nuclear missile issues as well as the North's abductions of Japanese citizens in the 1970s
a guy
and
who's
80s.
in charge of a country where North Korea was shooting missiles literally into their territory is willing to go and meet with him face to face.
And the Japanese media are taking note of
Straight
that.
over the
Last
island.
year, around the first Kim-Trump summit, Abe stressed pressuring the North into complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. But in his annual policy speech to Parliament earlier this year, the Prime Minister never mentioned pressuring the North. Instead, he said he'll work closely with the US and South Korea and aim to ultimately normalize diplomatic ties with Pyongyang. According to the Tokyo Shimbun, senior Japanese diplomats have recently said North Korea's denuclearization cannot be done all at once. Watchers believe that the change in tone comes amid criticism of Tokyo for allowing itself to be caught by past and recent developments surrounding the Korean Peninsula.
Honestly, it's been
Japanese media are also saying Tokyo has backed off in terms of its demands, considering America's willingness to move with the North in phases.
I would say we haven't even seen this during the Korean War towards the end.
I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime, so I have no comment on that.
Okay, so we're still in the Asia Pacific. One of the things that's been going on this week is there's been a lot of trade deal talks between the U.S. and China, and that's been kind of an ongoing dialogue between our two countries for the last several years, ever since Trump got into office and started the sanctions. And it seems like everyone's dead set on trying to reach a deal, but not much movement is happening. So that'll take us into our next clip.
2 days of trade talks between Washington and Beijing are now over. The U.S. delegation is set to meet with the Chinese President Xi Jinping later today. Now, the Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, calling the talks productive. Despite no signs of real progress, there's also been no decision yet on extending President Trump's March 1st deadline for higher tariffs, but the White House says it is
goes for the handshake and dude walks away.
We gotta do a
extending President Trump's March 1st deadline for higher tariffs, but the White House says it is optimistic.
No doubt.
They're covering all the ground. They're hard at it. They are going to meet with President Xi, so that's a very good sign. And they're just soldiering on. So, I like that story, and I will stay with the phrase, the vibe is good.
The vibe is good. Well, is it? Tori Whiting, a trade economist at their Heritage Foundation, joins us now. Good morning, Tori.
Good morning.
So after all these days of trade talks, are we closer to a deal or further from one?
Well, I think what's most important here is that the two sides are still talking. The U.S. and China negotiations are still ongoing, and that's a good thing. And, seeing that the administration is open to extending that March 1st deadline is also positive because we can't rush these things. These are big structural reforms for China to make, and that takes time.
Yeah, probably.
Where are the sharp differences, Tori?
Look at that smirk on Mnuchin's face.
The sharp differences between the two sides, I'd say that, the U.S. really wants to see substantial structural changes.
Yeah, I've seen a vagina before, have you?
Slow walk that like they always do.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting that China is seeking to woo the U.S. with the promise of big semiconductor, big chip purchases, generated in part, and this is interesting, by moving assembly operations of where we make the semiconductors, let's say Mexico, for instance, to China. So if that's the case, if that's the maneuver that they're working on, doesn't that only benefit China?
Kind of roboing out there.
Do we ever agree to that?
Speaking of superconductors.
Well, I think that nothing is really off the table right now, and what we really need to be focusing on, though, is not, these maneuvering trade flows, but it's really the real issues. It's investment, it's tech transfer, it's intellectual property rights, and we need to make sure the administration is staying on course with making sure those are the main issues.
Yeah, the follow-through is also a big issue. It also seems China is
gotta keep it follow-through.
Eliminating a national program that gives Chinese drivers subsidies to buy cars made in China. Do you see any budging on that point to open up their markets to foreign competition?
Well, I think it still remains to be seen until we see some sort of announcement from the two sides. But I think the most important thing here is really that any deal needs to include a removal of the tariffs.
All that green, baby.
They have been over $250 billion worth of imports in the United States are more expensive today than they were a year ago. And we need to make sure that these new taxes are not the new normal.
All right, and those taxes, aka tariffs, might go up again March 1st, and a lot of folks are saying the president should increase the tariffs, even if we don't have a deal, to keep the pressure on China. Tori, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Interesting.
No kidding.
Got to keep that pressure up.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the ways that they're kind of outproducing us is they're doing a lot of manufacturing of those semiconductors and little, chipsets and whatnot. They can pump those out for so cheap, but they load them full of malware, and it's even on the damn firmware too. So it's like, not only is it a security issue, but it's undercutting all of our trade, and that's kind of like central to the talks. That and the steel stuff.
Oh yeah, if they can build the back door into the goddamn device, why not? Why wouldn't you?
Well, actually, that's a major issue, right? So
I think Huawei's Chinese, right?
Yeah, and actually later we're gonna have a clip about Huawei.
I mean, OnePlus is what I meant. OnePlus, but yeah, Huawei is.
Yeah, Huawei and ZTE are the main ones. In fact, we're going to hear Donald Trump, I believe, talk about how he was able to get a penalty from ZTE and just.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Go ahead and roll us into the next clip from CNBC.
Rolling.
We have our people over there now. I just got a report. Things are going well with China. China wants to make a deal very badly. I want it to be a real deal, not just a deal that makes, cosmetically looks good for
their
a year.
lips.
We have a chance to really make a deal, a real deal with China. We've never been in this position before.
The fuck is going through her brain?
The lame duck, and we're not the lame duck anymore. We've gone up tremendously in value as a country, in economic value, tremendously. Larry, we've gone up, 11 trillion, 14 trillion, and China's gone down close to 20 trillion since we started this whole.
Worst performing stock market in the world.
Say it?
China, worst performing stock market in the world.
Has anybody ever heard of Larry Kudlow? That voice, I hear that voice, and you think money,
Larry
right?
Kudlow, that's that guy that we just saw in the last clip.
I didn't even know that. That's China, he said, is the worst performing stock market right now in the world, and we don't want that. We want China to do what we want, and that's because of us. And have to be one of the best performing stock markets, but we are the best performing country. And we have a lot of potential for further growth. So we're doing very well over in China. Our people are there, the people very well. And I think we're going to have some good answers. I think either way, I'm happy. I'm happy either way. I can live receiving billions and billions of dollars a month from China. China never gave us 10 cents. It was always the opposite way. Now they're paying billions of dollars a month for the privilege of coming into the United States and honestly taking advantage of our country. So we'll see how it works out. But at some point, I expect to
Here. Now they're paying for it.
Who I have a lot of respect for and like a lot.
They're buying up land all over the place.
The parts of the deal that the group is unable to make. That's the way deals happen.
Will the March 1st deadline slide, do you think?
Well, thus far, I've said, as you know, the tariffs tick up for us. In other words, we take in much more money because the tariff, and there's nothing they can do that's comparable. So it's not like tit for tat. The tariffs kick in, they go up. Right now, they're paying 25% on $50 billion, okay? And they're paying 10% on $200 billion. So we have $250 billion. We have $267 billion that we were very nice about and we're not taxing. On the $200 billion, we're paying the 10%. The 10% or $200 billion goes up to 25% on March 1st. And so far, I've said don't do that. Now, if we're close to a deal where we think we can make a real deal and it's going to get done, I could see myself letting that slide for a little while. But generally speaking, I'm not inclined to do that. Okay?
Sir, were you aware? Presenting the deal that you disagree with, would you consider declaring a national emergency to build the wall?
I consider everything. I'm considering everything. You know, we already have national emergencies out there.
Yeah,
you know, President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush, they've declared many national. This is not unique. They've declared many national emergencies. Many, many. And you have some out there that we can use in addition to one that we can declare if we want to do it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, President Trump.
Pretty good one, eh?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yep, that was a good one. I think I might have watched that earlier. So yeah, definitely.
I liked it a lot. All right. So our next clip is going to be the Huawei clip. Now this one's a little bit longer, so we might talking over it a little bit. But I think this is just going to lay out some of the concerns that people have for Huawei, and there's a pretty good chance that they might actually be banned from the country. Let's see.
Pressure to ditch Huawei. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warning European countries this week that using technology from the Chinese company could hurt relations with the United States. Last week, I spoke with Secretary Mike Pompeo about how the Huawei issue and China trade negotiations are related. Is this part of the conversation
I don't think
on
they're
trade?
looking at
Because
banning it.
earlier we were saying, oh, it's separate. What happened with Huawei is separate than the trade. Can you separate it?
These issues are connected. You
State by
can
state.
have conversations about trade that only address one piece of it, but
either way, that wouldn't keep it out.
Policy more broadly has to be sure that it covers down on each of these threats.
And one of the issues is Huawei spies on the people and countries in question. On Sunday Morning Futures, I've been talking about this threat from China for the last year and a half with House Intelligence Committee ranking member, then the chairman, Devin Nunes, going back as far as last spring. Go through why you see China as this growing national security threat, in particular building those military bases all over the world.
I just mentioned that they're building a military base in Djibouti. They are also continuing to put more and more submarines into the oceans. They took over the South China Sea. These are the types of things that we have to be concerned about, especially as they begin not only to advance their military capabilities, but also to steal our military secrets.
China might have accessed Allied intelligence shared with Poland and then passed it on to Moscow.
What the Chinese are doing is that they have these companies that are essentially owned by the party, the Communist Party. And essentially this is a dictatorship. There's very few people that own these companies.
He's not wrong.
They weaponize them. So
basically, the way that it goes is if you have a company in
world,
China,
you have
and especially
Chinese technology, specifically as it relates
there's
to
going to be a
infrastructure
representative from
on
the
communications infrastructure.
is actually got a position
every other company around the world,
and they approve everything.
A lot of companies out of business because they
can you stick them in the mailroom?
They want to have control over all the communication systems all over the globe.
Really fascinating stuff. Joining me right now is Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired
Do it like your
General
nepotist cousin.
Jack Keane. General, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Maria.
Well, you just heard my conversations with Devin Nunes. This China story is just incredible because we know about the economic aggressions, but there are military, national security aggressions as well. Mike Pompeo in Europe this week trying to explain these issues to European countries who are embedded with Huawei technology. What's your take on this?
Well, absolutely. He's out there doing the kind of work that absolutely needs to be done to confront China. We need a comprehensive strategy to confront China, not just solely on trade and its imbalance, intellectual property theft, the fact that they're economic predators, but it's also how they use Huawei and other telecommunication companies as actually extensions of their intelligence service. And that's truly what is happening here. You know, the Europeans depend, 40% of them depend on Chinese telecommunication companies. And that is what Secretary Pompeo is really pushing back on, sounding the alarm bell, particularly as we're moving from 4G to 5G. I mean, clearly what China wants to own is the global communication network. And therefore, it has access to everyone's data and everybody's information, clearly as they have the global ambition to replace the United States as the world's leader.
Right.
So this is a step in that direction.
And the U.S. gets impacted, right? I mean, what we just saw take place in Poland where we learned that the Chinese did the same thing to Poland that they have been doing across Africa, and that is saying we will do your infrastructure on telecom, only to be able to tap into that infrastructure and listen in and spy if the Polish government is in talks on any kind of security issues with the United States. Right there, the Chinese have an open way to listen in on that. So the U.S. is getting impacted as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because these are our allies out there. And
that I'm aware
of. Nations, China doesn't give them a choice. In other words, they go in there and they create these very large loans for them to build infrastructure, dams, roads, etc. And to be a part of that deal, they force Huawei on them. That's part of the negotiation. Yeah. You will accept our telecommunication system. So they own the data in that country for generations to come, Maria. It's really quite astounding in terms of their strategic ambitions that they have here.
It's incredible. Let me ask you this, General, because I want to get to North Korea, but before I end on this subject, there's a piece in the Journal this morning writing all about Huawei, and the Journal points out something very important where you're seeing people within America in rural communities push back on the president saying we want to ban Chinese telecom like Huawei because they need it. They're going to spend the next 2 years rebuilding their telecom systems by replacing what they already have in place, which is Huawei. So for those rural communities, they're seeing it differently. They're not recognizing the bigger threat of the espionage.
Yeah, certainly. It only represents about 1% of the United States telecommunication effort. So it's very small indeed. But the truth is that Huawei will use that data to its advantage. Maybe there's some way here the government can work a deal with them to ease them out of it and provide them some credits or some tax breaks, something that would help them financially to make the transition from Huawei to the United States telecommunications system.
Well, that's a great point, actually. Yeah, some kind of a break there. All right, let me move on to North Korea. It feels like we're seeing progress. I want to know what you think. During his rally last night in El Paso, the president was optimistic about his relationship with North Korea. Watch.
When I came in, North Korea looks like it was going to war. You know that. It was going to happen, bad things. Now,
normally I'd stop it.
You have no missile launches, you have no rocket testing, you have no nuclear testing, and I'm going to Vietnam, to Hanoi, in the near future, 27th and 28th of February, to have another summit, and hopefully we do as well with the second summit as we did with the first. I hope so.
General, what's your reaction here? We still have that elephant in the room, whereas there has not been any denuclearization.
Yeah, well, the president has always been...
Well, the missiles have stopped flying, haven't they?
Based on his relationship with Kim Jong-un. He gets letters from Kim Jong-un, and certainly Kim Jong-un's envoys have briefed the president, and we're not privy to all of that. So there's something there that we clearly don't know. But the facts are the facts, and you mentioned it. There has been not a single weapon or ballistic missile that has been disarmed or dismantled. And I think we're kind of at a stalemate. The first summit meeting, certainly there was an agreement to denuclearize, a little bit vague to be sure, but nonetheless that was the agreement. Now we have to see a breakthrough at this summit. There's something actually is taking place in terms of denuclearization. At a minimum, a timetable, a program, a list of weapons inventory that's identifiable. This system, this place is being dismantled and destroyed. Independent inspectors will be on the scene. That would be a solid commitment going forward. They would want a concession from us to be able to do something like that. They want sanction relief, Maria. Yeah. I doubt the United States will do that. That's what previous administrations have done. We'll find a way maybe to negotiate the peace treaty to the end of the war as a step forward in terms of our concession.
Yeah, this is a big, important meeting. General, we'll be watching. Great to get your insights as always. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Yeah, so
all right, man.
I feel pretty good.
Something funny here to do with that. So
here we go.
The Huawei staff, a little while back, was punished. Actually, this is pretty recently. So I don't know if you know Marquez Brownlee, the guy from YouTube that does tech videos.
Nope.
Anyway,
we'll check him out after this.
He started calling out Can you hear me?
Yes, of course we can.
Sorry, my phone's wigging out. Anyway, so he started calling out people who were working for like Android companies for their like PR teams and stuff like that were tweeting from iPhones instead of the Android phones they're supposed to be like marketing for. Anyway, 2 Huawei employees who sent a message from the Chinese telecom firm's Twitter account using an iPhone device have been punished. So yeah, essentially they were tweeting out, you know, use this phone, it's great, and then are tweeting it from an iPhone.
Ooh. Massive burn. Oh.
This tweet was sent by an iPhone. What?
Yeah, so it happens actually quite often, and there's like a ton of examples. Anyway, pretty.
So since we're kind of on the technology front right now with this whole Huawei story, I kind of thought this would be a great time to take a look at a tech story that's been breaking in Saudi Arabia, and it's actually causing a bunch of controversy over Apple and the Google Play Store.
Oh.
Now, I'm going to tell you this. The next clip, it's the title of which is very misleading, says Saudi Arabia is expanding influence in Silicon Valley. Well, I'll elaborate on that once we give this lady a bit to talk.
So, Nuala, what's your take on the unabashed expansion of the Saudi investment fund into Silicon Valley?
Around it.
Well, it's obviously a hot market, and there's lots of foreign investment in Silicon Valley and across the United States tech sector. The concern really is one of values and whose values are driving the creation of new products, services, and apps. We've seen just recently some outcry over the creation or the support of an app led by the Saudi government that allows people to track female associates or relatives. These are concerning kinds of...
Pause that. They won't say it. They won't say it out loud. It's a wife tracking app, my guy. It's literally an app so you can track your wife like she's a piece of crap.
Wife tracker! Coming soon!
Not even lying. You're not even trying to hide it. You're over there.
It's so funny. It sounds like a product out of Married with Children, man.
So I know, right? And it's literally like becoming this huge controversy. People are protesting the Google Play Store and the Apple Store for hosting.
Okay, we won't call it wife tracker. We'll call it anybody tracker.
So funny that they're not saying. All right, go ahead and play the clip.
And cousin tracker, that'd be fun.
Applications, and we would obviously want to espouse democratic values and values of equality and liberty. That's part of my organization's name, is Democracy and Technology. So the question for me is one of what kind of values are we embedding in the technology in our daily lives?
Do you think these companies, which have certainly done business with the Saudi in the past, will change their tune?
Well, this has been an age-old debate since there's been a tech sector in the United States as they've expanded and done business in other countries. And it is also a conflict, a little bit of laws and of cultures. The international internet allows for the export of U.S.-centric values by U.S. companies and vice versa from other countries and other values and other companies. So we're at the conversational point about Saudi Arabia that we've been at about China and other countries and how they run their internal operations and how they use technology.
So where do you think this goes? There has been a lot of private talk whispering about whether companies should or shouldn't take SoftBank's money because so much of SoftBank's Vision Fund money comes from the Saudi government. Do you think this issue dies, or does it continue to be an issue? Because I certainly have yet to hear someone say, we didn't take that $500 million because it came from SoftBank.
I think it's very difficult when there's that kind of money on the table to make those kind of choices, I'm sure, for the corporate leadership. But I do think the conversation is absolutely going to continue about the values and the norms and the democratic principles embedded in the products and services that companies are creating, and the sources not only of funds, but of revenue from the sales of those products. And I see those calls coming as much from within Silicon Valley and the employees of many of these companies as I do from outside, from civil society and groups like mine. So I think this is a conversation that we're just beginning in many parts of this country and really around the world. This is not the last we'll see of it.
Meantime, I want to talk to you about trust of the tech industry more broadly. There's a recent poll out conducted by YouGov, which shows that Facebook is one of the country's least trusted institution, right down at the bottom by Congress, whereas Google and Amazon are towards the top. And yet Facebook just reported earnings, and it keeps growing. It doesn't seem to be losing users. People are still using it. How do you square that?
Well, it's a terrific platform in many ways, and it's useful and it's free. I do think that we are having a conversation about the use of information and the use of personal information by companies of all kinds, not just in the tech sector. So I think that may account for some of the difference in the various brands' trust factors. But I think we are in a position now as a country to have a conversation about the use of personal information by all companies and the respect and the dignity that companies allow their customers, their employees, their partners. I think we're going to see comprehensive privacy law in the United States in the near term to put us back on the global playing field about privacy and data.
How much do you think consumers actually want comprehensive privacy regulation?
They want it a lot.
Badly, please. Swung very far in the direction that more and more average users, citizens of this country, realize that they're not necessarily getting a fair deal as people in other parts of the world are getting, even from some of our own companies.
Internet Bill of Rights when?
Of data and the disclosure of how those data are being used by the company. I think that there is a very practical reality. People want to use these services and they want to be part of the internet economy, but they want to know a little bit more and have a little bit more balance of power between the individual and the companies themselves.
So then is that trend on a collision course with the business model of these companies that make money based on how much data we share with them and how much they can squeeze more value out of it?
I think data is very much a source of power.
Yeah, this is just making me want to just.
And I think there will be real changes and kind of a real
read a speech now.
Come to the table meeting of all of the companies and how they're using data and how the various business models work.
She's not
I think
lying,
hopefully
though.
we're going to see a race to the top in the conversation, which has been begun by a number of CEOs, not only in Silicon Valley but across the United States, in what their commitments are to the use of data about their customers.
Can the U.S. catch up to Europe at this point?
I'm not sure we want to only catch up to Europe, meaning that may not be the perfect model for the United States. They have a very different kind of enforcement mechanism and model than we do. But I think that there are global principles about dignity, about transparency, about accountability, about how these companies explain what they do and get consumer buy-in and not just consent, but really do the right thing. Because I think the notice and choice model that we've all relied on with lots of privacy policies is really a thing of the past. As technology becomes embedded in the walls of our houses and the dashboards of our car, we want to know that we're being treated fairly and that there are certain uses that are inbounds and there are certain uses that are simply out. So I think we can do this, and it'll look up like a slightly different American model, but the principles will be the same.
Oh, governments of the industrial world, you weary giants of flesh and steel! I come from the internet!
For being a DHS stooge, she's not wrong and she's not bad. She just kind of slow rolled the wife app.
Wife tracker.
Slow rolled the wife. Dude, my mother-in-law would have loved that thing. She was trying to track her son because he was kind of a little shit. She's like, "Hey, can you install the tracker on this phone?" She like stole his phone and brought it to me. I'm like, "Yeah, right."
I'm pretty sure all that stuff already exists, but you can just repurpose it for whatever you want. Well, I gotta track my dog. Okay.
Turn on his find my shit, but you gotta know the password.
All right. Okay.
The family password.
So we're gonna kind of switch gears out of tech here for a second. All right, I'm taking a look here at our list, and it looks like the next one up is actually a kind of a weird one. And mind you, it is Al Jazeera reporting on Israel. So we are switching gears to the Middle East. But they have a really weird law they want to pass. They're calling it pay for slay. And basically what it is, is they are going to charge, if I remember correctly, I might be wrong. I'll check myself if I'm wrong in the clip. But from what I understand, it's literally a law that says that if Palestinians get killed in the line of fire or something like that, their families get taxed.
What?
Wait, by the person doing the shooting and killing, or,
well, if their terrorist relatives go and go and try to commit a terrorist act and die in the process, then they get taxed. Now, I might be wrong about this, but I thought that was how it was implemented. It made me kind of shake my head. So
well, let's find out the truth.
Now, Israel's Prime Minister says he intends to introduce a controversial new law within the week. It's known as pay for slay. This is how it works. The Palestinian government pays compensation to the families of people who've been arrested or killed.
Excuse me, my bad.
Okay.
They pay for them to get killed.
Israel
My bad.
would deduct the same amount equal to that compensation from tax funds that it collects for the Palestinians.
Yeah,
now, if the law goes
That's where I got
through,
the confusion.
it would effectively cut revenue to the Palestinian Authority by around $330 million per year. Harry Fawcett has more now from West Jerusalem.
Pause that for a second. So to correct myself here, the Palestinian government is paying Palestinian families that die from Israeli military actions. And the Israeli government says, well, in response, we're going to cut your foreign aid by exactly the amount of money that you pay those families. So suck it.
Well, that shit's fucked up. I mean, you're just saying, okay, go die for the family.
But Mom, I wanted a jihad today. No, son, you can't. The taxes were too high.
Well, back in the Need to Know days, you guys remember when we did that story about the Palestinians and how Hamas was actually paying people to get wounded on the border.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Pretty bad, man. Pretty bad.
Sounds like an appropriate equal response. Maybe. I don't know. Let's continue. So let's continue and figure it all out.
Benjamin Netanyahu has long argued against and attacked the Palestinian leadership over what it says is a system of welfare payments to Palestinian prisoners and what the Israeli government characterizes as a form of incitement to carry out attacks against Israelis. This is the week, though, he says that this law will come into effect, and that next Sunday in the next Israeli Security Cabinet meeting is when the first calculation will be made in terms of withholding some of the money that Israel raises in taxes for the Palestinian Authority and pays to the Palestinian Authority every month. There has been some controversy over this, even within Israeli circles. Wide reports that the Israeli security establishment is worried about the withholding of further money, about the potential effects on security cooperation between the Israeli security services and the Palestinian Authority in the occupied West Bank. Of course, there's also been a reaction from the PA as well. They say that this is nothing short of Israeli piracy and is being done in concert with the Americans.
I mean, between such small countries,
on the Palestinians ahead of the rollout of the Trump peace plan. Nonetheless, we are in election season at a time when Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to portray himself as the man of the right, with a tough line against the Palestinians, in opposition to the way he's trying to characterize his main rival, Benny Gantz, the former Israeli army chief, whom he's trying to say is of the weak left. And as well as that, there have been a series of attacks carried out in recent weeks.
Just me, or does it seem like the rest of the world is starting to adopt the way we speak?
Or rather, an Israeli 19-year-old woman was killed by a Palestinian man.
I kind of was thinking about that the other day. The more and more we have
apprehended in Ramallah,
internet
the occupied
access,
West Bank on Saturday,
according
according to the Israeli media,
each other,
he has reenacted the crime, has admitted to a sexual assault
that new
and
type
murder.
theory.
This is a crime which has really outraged a huge number of Israelis. The police are saying they are certainly examining a political motive. No direct calling of this as a terror attack by the Israeli Prime Minister just yet. No comment either from Hamas in Gaza or from the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank either. Nonetheless, there has been a huge reaction to this, and for Benjamin Netanyahu to have delayed the imposition of this law at this time would have been politically very difficult for him.
How about that?
How about that?
So that's kind of a weird one, yeah.
Wife tracker.
So we're gonna kind of skip Yemen this episode because basically all that's really going on. Well, I mean, all that's really going on in Yemen right now is that they're dealing with the U.S. pulling out, and so there's no real changes. I mean, the war is still going on. People are still dying. People are still starving. It's sad, but we are going to check in on Syria because there has been a lot of talk about Syria actually, I think we will have a little bit of a thing about Yemen later, but we have so much happening in Syria this week with ISIS. I mean, they're going after ISIS in their last held stronghold. They're down to like a square mile of held territory, which really isn't much, and they're saying that it's like the final battle. So we'll start off with the Israeli airstrike clip, catch up with that, see what the Israelis are doing in Syria, and then we'll go to the rest.
And turn that into a Warhammer 40K mission. That'll be hilarious.
In one of the first military exercises of the year, Iranian soldiers let loose the weapons of war. The same young men playing war games now may someday be fighting on front lines far from home. And experts worry Israel might be the enemy. Hostility between the two countries is no secret. Since the early days of the Syrian war 8 years ago, Israeli forces have targeted Iranian allies of the government in Damascus. But continuing Israeli strikes on Iranian targets in Syria means what started out as a sidebar to the war runs the risk of becoming a parallel conflict.
Better than any video game.
We have been fighting Israel in different ways for 40 years. Now there is a direct contact because our bases are close to their borders. We are monitoring their activities and we are capable of retaliation. So far, we have not decided to enter a direct war with Israel because we believe the Syrian government should make this decision. They haven't yet, but it may happen, and if it does, we should expect a direct and very wide war on the ground, sea and air.
Yeah, we're thinking about it, but not yet.
Open conflict with Israel would probably look like proxy battles of the past, likely playing out on Lebanese and Syrian soil. Experts say strikes on each other's cities is also a possibility, but the most dangerous escalation would come from the involvement of Israel's staunchest ally and Iran's staunchest enemy, the United States. If that were to happen, many experts warn the conflict could become global. There is perhaps no clearer sign of the distrust between Iran and Israel than this monument to their mutual animosity.
Jesus,
in a
look at
speech
that
a few years
art.
ago, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei predicted the end of Israel, giving the country 25 years until it destroyed itself. His supporters did the math and put a clock in Palestine Square in downtown Tehran.
It reminds us of our debt clock, doesn't it?
As literal
Dude,
and
talk
divine,
about
this countdown
provocative,
clock
though.
is more than just a publicity stunt. For many Iranians, it is a real-time countdown to the end of Israel as we know it. But Iranians still bear the scars of the 8-year war with neighboring Iraq in the 1980s.
I have
And
about as
even
much
with
respect
Israel,
for a
rush
symbolic
to
clock
war
as a
seems unwanted.
drowning man would a picture of oxygen.
First of all, war is not a good thing because all countries involved take a loss. If there is a war, we won't start it, but we will fight until our last drop of blood to defend our country.
Iran won't go for war. Iran is just defending itself. We don't say war will never happen every moment we expect it, but we will defend ourselves and we will surely win.
Surely.
Better to avoid war as much as possible. It's better if things can be solved by talks, but talks without any deception.
While low-level skirmishes with Israel inside Syria may worsen, in Iran, there still seems to be as much talk of peace as there is for war. Despite open hostility towards Israel for now, most people don't appear to want another large-scale conflict.
Well, thankfully everybody's on the, war, what is it good for side.
Yeah, that's kind of the general feeling around the world right now, and honestly, that's nice for once. Gee.
Meanwhile, legalization of marijuana is on the rise.
Right.
If there's a correlation.
Might have to go for a special job drug test. That's not going to be. All right, so we've got where are we at? We've done the Israel.
General disagree.
14. This is actually kind of an interesting clip. We'll go to this one, and then we'll go to the CBS This Morning clip that comes right after. There's a bit of disagreement there between the two clips, so let's take a look.
Figure it out.
Both
the president
CBS,
today teased an announcement about ISIS. Here's what he had to say.
We have a lot of great announcements having to do with Syria and our success with the eradication of the caliphate, and that'll be announced over the next 24 hours.
General Joseph Votel, the top general in the Middle East, said this week that ISIS remains a threat, and he disagrees with pulling troops out of Syria. What do you make of that disconnect, David?
Well, it's the difference between winning a battle and winning the war. U.S.-backed forces are about to win the battle against the physical caliphate of ISIS, the territory that they once controlled.
But you can't kill an idea.
24 hours or 48 hours, that fight is almost over. But the point that generals like Joseph Votel are making is that even after the caliphate is no more, ISIS will still have leaders. It will still have fighters who have escaped from these pockets to live on and fight another day. It will still have sources of money, although nothing like the resources it had when it could
fight ISIS.
Like nerds from one convention trying to start their own convention.
The local banks, but they are still going to have the capacity to fight on. But that said,
you won't allow furries at our con? Okay, we'll go start our own con.
Taking away the last piece of territory that they hold will be a major milestone in the battle against ISIS, in the war against ISIS.
All right. All right. Well, let's see what the other side saying.
This next clip is a little bit more like factual about what's actually going on. I think it talks a little bit about the battle that they're that they're involved in now, but at the time the clip came out, they were about to be involved in.
Well, U.S.-backed forces are closing in on the last sliver of ISIS territory in Syria. This morning, they say ISIS controls only about 1 square mile in the eastern village of Baghouz. Charlie Daggett reports from the front lines of this offensive that is now entering its final stages.
Cell phone footage of fierce gun battles shows what they've been up against. ISIS militants firing back with everything they had left. But on the front line Thursday, we found a change. Soldiers at ease, sensing victory. That is the village of Baghouz Vakani, ISIS's last stand. And apart from sporadic gunfire, all you can hear now is silence. Hundreds of ISIS fighters have reportedly surrendered in the past.
Safe enough that I could actually take off this bulletproof vest.
Estimated number left. American aid worker David Eubank said he saw dozens give themselves up to U.S. Special Forces right here.
We saw a group of about 50 men, all fit, strong-looking guys, walking with like 3 women. They searched them all. They were all ISIS fighters that gave up.
The U.S.-led coalition has released a statement saying while ISIS is on the verge of collapse and the end of the physical,
only they had women tracker.
They continue
wife
to pose
tracker.
a threat to the security of this region. For CBS This Morning, Charlie Daggett in eastern Syria.
Thanks, Charlie.
Oh, appreciate that. So,
all right. Close to the end.
Donald Trump promised, made his promises. Just saying.
Yeah, the last days of ISIS. Coming down, man. We're bringing it down. The caliphate's going down.
So we've talked a lot about Yemen. I think we could probably skip this next clip, although I think I want to leave it in the show.
All right.
And the one after it is actually kind of long. The reason I included it was so that our viewers could actually watch the whole announcement. Basically, Donald Trump today declared a national emergency over border funding. So we do have a clip from the Washington Post, which is a quick recap. That should be clip number 18 in the list there.
All right, so we'll start with that.
Absolutely. We'll go with that, and then we'll go ahead and lead into a couple highlights. I really like this second one that we have. That's President Trump believes Obama was close to war with North Korea, but we'll watch that one afterwards. And then we got some U.S. politics stuff that's kind of relevant to what's going on this week.
Brutal. All right, let's jump right in.
So I'm going to be signing a national emergency. And it's been signed many times before. It's been signed by other presidents. From 1977 or so, it gave the presidents the power. There's rarely been a problem. They sign it. Nobody cares.
Hear all those sirens in the background?
But nobody cares. They sign it for far less important things in some cases, in many cases. We're talking about an invasion of our country with drugs, with human traffickers, with all types of criminals and gangs
Mr. President, what do you say to those, including some of your Republican allies, who say that you are violating the Constitution with this move and setting a bad precedent that will be abused by possibly Democratic presidents in the future? Marco Rubio
Well,
has
not
made
too
this
many
point.
people, yeah. Not too many people have said that. But the courts will determine that. Look, I expect to be sued. I shouldn't be sued. Very rarely do you get sued when you do national emergency. And then other people say, oh, if you use it for this, now what are we using it for? We've got to get rid
Use
of
it for
drugs
this, we're going to
and
use it for that.
gangs and people. It's an invasion. We have an invasion of drugs and criminals coming into our country that we stop, but it's very hard to stop. With a wall, it would be very easy. So I think that we will be very successful in court. I think it's clear. And the people that say we create precedent, well, what do you have, 56 or a lot of times? Well, that's creating precedent. And many of those are far less important than having a border. You don't have a border, you don't have a country. You know, we fight before I got here.
That's a great quote. We don't have a
We fight
border,
all
we
over
don't
the
have a
world
country.
to create borders for
Right
countries.
there. Boom.
But we
That on a
don't
bumper
create
sticker.
a border for our own country. So I think what will happen is, sadly, we'll be sued, and sadly, it'll go through a process, and happily, we'll win, I think.
Will you concede that you were unable to make the deal that you had promised in the past, and that the deal you're ending up with now from Congress is less than what you could have had before a 35-day shutdown?
I went through Congress. I made a deal. I got almost $1.4 billion when I wasn't supposed to get $1. Not $1. He's not going to get $1. Well, I got $1.4 billion, but I'm not happy with it. I also got billions and billions of dollars for other things. Port of entries, lots of different things. The purchase of drug equipment, more than we were even requesting. In fact, the primary fight was on the wall. Everything else, we have so much, as I said, I don't know what to do with it. We have so much money. But on the wall, they skimped. So I was successful in that sense, but I want to do it faster. I could do the wall over a longer period of time.
Harder,
I didn't need to
stronger.
do this. But I'd rather do it much faster. And I don't have to do it for the election. I've already done a lot of wall for the election, 2020. And the only reason we're up here talking about this is because of the election. Because they want to try and win an election.
Oh, he's talking about it like he already
it
won
looks like
that
they're not
shit.
going to be able to do. And this is one of the ways they think they can possibly win, is by obstruction.
On North Korea.
So.
There we go.
Oh, shit.
All right, so then, let's see. On to clip 19, I believe. Jumping right in.
On North Korea, back on the last summit, you guys came out with a pretty general agreement.
Yes.
I was wondering what you thought has been accomplished since the last summit, and then are we going to be seeing anything concrete on denuclearization?
Yeah, a lot's been accomplished. We're dealing with them. We're talking to them. When I came into office, I met right there in the Oval Office with President Obama. And I sat in those beautiful chairs, and we talked. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. As you know, it ended up being many times longer than that. And I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, by far, North Korea. And I don't want to speak for him, but I believe he would have gone to war with North Korea. I think he was ready to go to war. In fact, he told me he was
pretty good chance of that. Things were heating up pretty fast.
A big war
Well,
with
if he
North
handed
Korea.
it off to old Hillary,
And
we
where are
all
we
know
now?
what would have happened.
Yep.
No missiles.
Boom.
No rockets. No nuclear testing. We've learned a lot. But much more importantly than all of it, much more important than that, is we have a great relationship. I have a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. And I've done a job. In fact, I think I can say this. Prime Minister Abe of Japan gave me the most beautiful copy of a letter that he sent to the people who give out a thing called the Nobel Prize. He said, I have nominated you, or respectfully on behalf of Japan, I am asking them to give you the Nobel Peace Prize. I said, thank you. Many other people feel that way too. I'll probably never get it, but that's okay. They gave it to Obama. He didn't even know what he got it for. He was there for about 15 seconds, and he got the Nobel Prize. He said, oh, what did I get it for? With me, I probably will never get it. But if you look at Idlib province in Syria, I stopped the slaughter of perhaps 3 million people. Nobody talk about that. They don't talk about that. Russia and Iran and Syria were going to go in and perhaps destroy 3 million people in order to get 45,000 terrorists. And I heard about it from a woman who had her parents and her brothers living there, and she said, please, please. And I said, no, it can't happen. What are you talking about? No, they're going to get, and I come home and I read a certain paper where the story was there that they were actually forming to go into, to really do big destruction. And I put out a statement that you better not do it. And in all fairness to Russia and Iran and Syria, they didn't attack, or they're doing it surgically at least. Saved a lot of people. We do a lot of good work. This administration does a tremendous job, and we don't get credit for it. But I think the people understand what we do. So Prime Minister Abiy gave me, I mean, it's the most beautiful five-page letter. Nobel Prize. He sent it to them. You know why? Because he had rocket ships and he had missiles flying over Japan. And they had alarms going off. You know that. Now all of a sudden they feel good. They feel safe. I did that. And it was a very tough dialogue at the beginning. Fire and fury, total annihilation. My button is bigger than yours and my button works. Remember that? You don't remember that. And people said, Trump is crazy. And it ended up being a very good relationship. I like him a lot, and he likes me.
You see why I like this clip so much?
Yeah, this is one of
the
the
Obama administration
baller motherfucker.
Number one, they probably wouldn't have done it, and number two, they didn't have the capability to do it. So I just want to thank everybody. I want to wish our new Attorney General great luck and speed, and enjoy your life. Bill, good luck. A tremendous reputation. I know you'll do a great job. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow.
Boom.
Oh, extreme booms. Oof.
Oh, yeah, lots of booms, my guy. Speaking of booms, Q posted while we were...
Oh, what do you know?
Nice, really?
I know, I was checking that out. Apparently some news from Fox News about the border security bill. DHS official says border security bill does not contain amnesty poison pills, which is incorrect. It does.
Right.
All right. So moving on through our list here, Nancy Pelosi came out and had a ridiculous argument to fight against the border wall. She said, if he's going to declare an emergency on the border, he should be declaring an emergency about gun violence. And basically, she supposed that a Democrat president could do a gun grab through a national emergency.
Not if they close the loophole.
Well, Nancy Pelosi doesn't have any idea about, oh, well, you can't really use emergency powers like that to, I don't know, circumvent constitutional rights.
Well, also, like, really try it. Like, I mean, honestly, it's not like it would go over.
We have a flag that says, come and take it. Come on.
That was actually one of my favorite things. I was listening to the emergency announcement this morning, and one of the things that Trump talked about was how they're going to sue him over the border wall. And he's going to lose in the appeals court. He's going to lose in the Ninth Circuit. But just like with the travel ban, he's going to win in the Supreme
Court.
Bigly.
Yes, bigly. So
and
let's
by
go
the
ahead
way,
and see
like,
what
how
Pelosi...
long are they gonna let Ruth Bader just like kick it wherever?
You know, that's an interesting story. There was an article that came out earlier today where they were like, oh yeah, she's coming back to the Supreme Court to fight the border wall hand to hand, and then they posted a picture of her from like years ago at a political conference.
Like,
so
why
they don't
did
even
you
have...
do that? Yeah, like,
I don't know, dude. This is like Weekend at Bernie's. Like, where the fuck is she? Show me the body.
We just want to make sure she's okay. You just show us a
so
picture, something.
Before we get too off base, we should check out this Nancy Pelosi clip real quick.
All right, let's see Pelosi spew it.
See if she calls him Bush.
Again, we take an oath to protect and defend the American people, our Constitution, and the rest. We're not protecting them by not having the gun laws that are suitable to avoid
Wouldn't even turn off the
gun
cell phone
violence.
for it.
So we're asking the Speaker to withdraw their SHARE Act, silencer bill, and then also armor-piercing bullet bill. To pass the bipartisan King-Thompson bill on background checks, common sense background checks of the Congress, and especially on this issue that relates to protecting the American people. But in addition to that, we have to do much more. We've asked the Speaker for a select committee on gun violence. You don't like these ideas? What ideas can we come together? This is a big issue in our country. It is overwhelmingly supported, the background checks, by the American people, even by large numbers of members of the National Rifle Association. Even though their organization doesn't support it, many of the members do. Many hunters, gun owners across the country have said, we have had our background checks. We think other people should too. So
who resist this because they say, give the gun control people an inch and they'll try to take them on.
and we have to act now. And we're not going away. We've told the families
AP
we have
really
to
has
pass
to do something with their
and
cutting.
all of this all just blossoms
Seriously, they do.
when something occurs, and then we have a flurry of comments from the other side of the aisle saying this is not the time. Now is not the time. No, it's the time for a moment of silence and no time for action.
Oh, border wall. But what about the
impatience of the American people is right on, and
Was
we
the
have
last
to
school
do something
shooting?
about it.
It was a while back, but we've had a couple shootings recently.
Today, there were several mass shootings.
Not taking up any of these bills, but the Republicans are spending this week on their budget. Their miserable, deceptive, horrible budget.
Yeah, but I mean,
a budget should
you know,
be
the one that
statement of
takes over the
national
news
values.
cycle.
What is important to us as a country should be
Like,
reflected
you know,
in
always seems
what
to happen.
we prioritize in our budget. Show me your budget. Show me your values. Well, we've said where we'd like to go, and that's in a bipartisan place, which
Show me
is
the budget.
they deceptively,
Oh, but don't read the bill.
say to the
You have to
American
pass
people,
the bill.
oh, the growth that's going to
know what's
occur
in it.
by our giving 80% of this tax cuts to
Oh.
the top 1% and cutting the tax of corporate America
Top
is going
1%.
to produce such growth that it will eliminate that increase in the debt. Nonsense. Never has. Trickle-down economics, tax cuts for the wealthy with the
She's
thought
just
that
jumping
there might
all
be
over
some
the
job
place here.
creation.
Either the AP
No
sucks
job
or she's
creation,
just
and it
literally that
increases the debt.
bad.
So she's like answering some questions, but no, she is all over the place. They don't have a good response for her.
I mean, oh my god, I don't know if it was her or if it was the AP's fault, but I mean, that was just, I gotta wash that out of my mouth. Gross.
Yo, that was like the best coverage I could find for it without going the full 15 minutes. So, switching
Not giving
gears
15
here,
minutes to that woman.
I know, right? But we're switching gears a little bit to some just random news stories throughout America right now. One of the big ones I saw while we were on hiatus was Judicial Watch got their they were actually successful with their lawsuit in California. And California is pulling something like 1.5 million defunct voters from the voter rolls.
Dude, we gotta watch this.
They were saying a couple weeks ago that that they had like something like over 900 illegal aliens voting, and that it increased their electoral votes by like 9 votes, and so that disenfranchised like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming or some shit like that.
Holy crap. All right, let's get in on this. Let's see what's going on. Major Tom, let's go.
Hi, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with major breaking news for clean elections. Judicial Watch and its clients settled a major federal lawsuit against the state of California and Los Angeles County that require the removal of up to 1.5 million in active voter registrations. This obviously goes a long way to cleaning up election rolls in California and will have a major impact nationwide in Judicial Watch's ongoing election integrity efforts to make sure that your elections are clean, fair, and honest.
Boom.
Boom!
Yeah. Basically, he just had the quick announcement. They had a few announcements about it that were like 6 minutes long, 15 minutes long, but it's really easy to cover, honestly. They've been pushing for this since last summer, if I remember correctly.
About time it's finally happening.
So one of the things that happened while we were on hiatus was the Roger Stone arrest.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Roger
CNN,
Stone.
we're here. We're always there.
So there was there's a pretty good clip that I pulled from Tucker Carlson. He managed to get the footage of the actual arrest. His shirt that he's wearing while this goes on is hilarious. But just to catch us up, we're gonna go into this clip a little dry, but post clip, what's happened is that Roger Stone has now been given a gag order. He's not allowed to talk, and then his old associate Jerome Corsi of infamy,
Dr. Jerome Corsi.
Jerome Corsi is suing Roger Stone.
Yeah, I saw this.
So he started off by suing Mueller, and now he's suing Roger Stone, and he was suing Mueller for $350 million, man, just a complete frivolous.
I guess he didn't make enough on book sales, eh?
Hey!
Hey!
Oh. All right, let's play it.
New home security video shows multiple angles of the FBI's pre-dawn raid on the home of political consultant Roger Stone. Unarmed, 66 years old, without a passport, barefoot. Until now, the only public footage of the raid came from CNN, which somehow knew to arrive 1 hour before the FBI got there. Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker was asked about the CNN footage in his testimony before Congress today. Here's part of it.
Are you familiar from public reports or otherwise that a CNN reporter was camped out outside of Stone's house when the FBI arrested him?
It looks like Mr. Clean.
Thank you. This wouldn't be part of the investigation.
I am aware of that, and it was deeply concerning to me as to how CNN found out about that. I share your concern with the possibility that a media outlet was tipped off to Mr. Stone's either indictment or arrest before it was made, that information was available to the public.
Oh my God,
the
that
new
was
footage
bait.
from Stone's home shows CNN arriving about an hour before agents did. The footage depicts what you'd expect if the FBI raided the home of the Mexican drug lord, maybe even SEAL Team 6 going into bin Laden's compound. For context, Roger Stone is a senior citizen accused of false statements to Congress. Take a look at what happened. It's just before 5 a.m. and an SUV with a CNN cameraman arrives first to this quiet street in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Within minutes, the driver gets out and begins to set up his tripod. So far, no sign that anything's about to happen. But the cameraman gets back in his car with his equipment to wait. Almost exactly 1 hour later, trucks with
God, I love the soundtrack for this. Oh my God, Tucker.
Immediately, CNN's cameraman jumps out of the car, camera on shoulder, capturing the footage. The feds assemble on Stone's driveway. They're wearing ballistic armor and
Vietnam or some
shit with 30-round magazines, red dot sights, and tactical flashlights mounted to their barrel shrouds. One has his gun hanging by a strap while he carries a battering ram in his left hand. All of the men have sidearms holstered on their waists. A second camera mounted on Stone's front door shows another angle of the raid. A heavily armed FBI agent approaches the door with his gun drawn, while others stake out positions behind. It looks like a high-stakes raid, but CNN's cameraman is still 40 feet away filming it all. One agent swings his firearm around as he scans and surveys Stone's front porch. Behind the home, a third camera captures agents approaching the back of the house from the side yard. Behind the property, a boat arrives with at least 2 agents on board. They shine a floodlight into Stone's home. Back in front, an agent pounds on Stone's door, finger next to the trigger in case something goes wrong. He tries again as he and his colleagues wait in position.
Maybe ring the bell.
Within minutes, Stone exits his home to greet the agents who have their rifles pointed at him. Stone raises his hands and spins around, apparently trying to show that he is unarmed. Another FBI agent approaches Stone from behind and cuffs him. It's just after 6 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark out. 20 minutes later, the same camera shows agents leading Roger Stone back into his house. He is barefoot. Stone is wearing a t-shirt that says, Roger Stone did nothing wrong.
What a fucking internet troll.
Yeah.
Where'd he get the shirt?
Water
Did he already have it
media
made?
tell us totally commonplace. By the
Did
book,
they give it
happens all
to
the
him?
time. No, it doesn't. We'll be back.
Backlash continues.
How about that, bro?
How about it?
That was good shit. That was good.
Great shit. Frickin' soundtrack still, man. I'm a goddamn ducker.
So good.
Oh.
Like a James Bond movie or something.
Oh man, yeah, he should get in touch with Michael Bay.
So on the same note, I don't have a clip for it, but the House Intelligence Committee just came out, and by bipartisan vote, they found that Donald Trump had no ties to Russia. No Russia collusion.
No Russian collusion. You heard it here first, folks. Probably not.
So we're still waiting on Mueller, which is what all the Democrats are waiting on. But last week, when we were getting the results in from, the House, what is that, the Senate Intelligence Committee? Twitter exploded, and then Jack came under fire for throttling people's Twitter access. They really are uneasy about this shit right now, man.
Yeah, seems like they're panicking.
I think so. All right, so we have two more clips. We've got one here from Representative Nunes. I don't usually like to use One American News Network because personally I'm not a big fan of Jack Posobiec.
Me neither.
But it's a pretty good. I think we should watch it. Representative Nunes is worthless.
Oh yes, he is. Let's hear it.
Backlash continues for fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe after he reveals shocking details about his role in the Russia probe and high-level plans to oust President Trump. One American News caught up with Congressman Devin Nunes and has this report.
Sounds like a coup to me.
All of these guys, what they did is they knew that this was Clinton campaign dirt that they were using that came from Russians. And what did they decide to do? They decided to open up an investigation into the Trump campaign for colluding with the Russians. It's beyond the pale. It's totally unacceptable. I think your listeners, viewers know a lot about this because you guys have done a great job of covering it over the last couple of years. Hopefully with a new Attorney General in place now, there will be some actions taken to rectify and remedy these problems. It's like the never-ending investigations, and then one investigation builds on another investigation. The only thing we know for sure is the Clinton campaign colluded with the Russians and the Trump campaign did not. But the reality is that these guys set this all up, they put it into motion, they abused their power, they've paralyzed this country for 2 years and this president with phony investigations. And now the investigations are going off into, remember back in the day 2 years ago when you would interview me, we'd talk about whether or not there was collusion and I'd have to answer all of those questions. No one's talking about collusion anymore. And they've moved on to other things. So they're just going to keep investigating. So it is an investigation in search of a crime.
Want to see more videos like this?
Oh, no, we don't.
Want to see more videos like this?
No.
Oh my God, that's so America's funniest home videos right there.
But,
in case you guys didn't pick it up, it looks like the Democrats were going to use Department of Justice as their emergency, exit plan for Donald Trump if they couldn't get the presidential seat. How fucked up is that?
That sounds like a coup to me.
Sounds like to me too. So, we always save the most hilarious for last around here, yeah?
Oh, we try to.
Absolutely, gotta do it.
We have a Tucker Carlson clip where he examines Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's
oh God, we're bringing her up.
Green Deal.
We're gonna meme her straight into something.
You don't even have to meme her. Just go to her website and take a screenshot.
I know. It's so true.
Forgetting about the power of meme magic, you guys.
I was kind of mad that people made fake stuff about it because I was like, damn, guys, like the real stuff is like just as bad. And then this guy
it's
lies
so hilarious.
about it.
The farting cows.
We're going to make a bullet train to Europe.
God. Hawaii, you're on the map. We're good. You're no problem.
Okay, next on my list of things to do, write an 80s power ballad called Train to Europe. Nice. All right, let's see what's going on here then.
All right, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says her Green New Deal will save
roll
the
his
planet.
R.
In exchange, we just give up cars and airplanes and rebuild every structure in the United States. We'll also, by the way, need to invent brand new forms of energy that science hasn't conceived of yet. How much will this cost? That's unclear. Come on. How will we pay for it? Unknown. Who will make this happen? Well, workers, obviously, though anyone who is, quote, unwilling to work will still get paid by the government. In other words, not all of the details have been ironed out as of tonight, and that's why we're grateful that Robert Hawkins is here. He's a law professor at Cornell. He's advising Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the Green New Deal, and he joins us. Professor, thanks very much for coming on. So
I like this guy's hair.
Question, why would we ever pay people who are, quote, unwilling to work?
Like he's about to just run into the apartment and say, "Hey, buddy."
Never said anything like that, right? I think you're referring to some sort of a document that some doctored document that somebody other than us has been circulating.
Oh, I thought that came right from her. That was in the background or from her office, is my understanding.
No,
no, it came from his buddy Bob Sacamano.
It seems that apparently some Republicans have put it out there. I don't know the details.
Well, good. Well, then thank you for correcting me. I mean, because it seemed a little ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as the idea that we're going to build enough light rail to make airplanes unnecessary, which I think actually is from the plan.
I don't know where you got that either, Tucker. I actually believe that you're actually on our side about this if you actually read the actual plan, right? There's nothing about getting rid of anything. It's about expanding menu options, right? I mean, there are many, many things we want to be able to do now in addition to what we already do. So where's the airplane disappearance coming from? I'm not really clear on where that originates.
Well, I could actually get it for you. This is
that would be great.
Frequently asked questions released by her office. And I'm quoting from it. And maybe this is fraudulent. In which case, I hope.
Oh my God! Look at that stance.
The Green New Deal would
it's like, my farts don't stink. My farts don't stink. I'm so much better than you.
Where air travel would stop
#gorilla
necessary. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono responded to that by saying that would be hard for Hawaii. So I don't think that's made up. The senator from Hawaii
but I mean, it apparently is being misunderstood, right? We're really talking about expanding optionality here. We're not talking about getting rid of anything, right? We're talking about basically making it cost effective to move into more modern forms of technology, more modern forms of production, which would then enable people actually cost effectively to transition to that stuff. We're talking about requiring anything or prohibiting anything.
Tucker
That's a 1980s style environment.
Okay, but hold on. I don't want you to back away from what she herself has said. And all of this with the caveat that, a lot of this won't happen, maybe none of it, but these are the ideas that she's articulating. She did so on NBC last week.
I promise you, Tucker, I won't back away from anything she said. Indeed, we're pushing forward, right?
Liar.
Said, at high speed.
Very high
speed. We're going to supplant all fossil fuels in 12 years.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Okay, so that would mean
that doesn't mean prohibiting them. It means rendering them obsolete by doing something better. And we can do it. This is America.
Then good. Then I'm glad. And it's nice to have a smart person on the show to explain this. What about air travel, which is critical to our economy? This is a continental country.
It stays the same.
Okay,
right?
but no, because that requires fossil fuel.
No.
That might, we're talking about carbon neutrality. Remember, we're talking about net zero emissions. That doesn't mean that there's never any burning of anything, right? I mean, until we come up with solar panel flying airplanes.
Oh, here we go.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to correct. I just had, because
this guy's just so happy to be on TV. That's it.
The unwilling to work thing was in her backgrounder. That has been absolutely confirmed. You're saying no.
Yeah, that's been absolutely confirmed.
Okay, so
you don't understand. I'm so green that my blazer is made out of
that's fraudulent.
That's erroneous, right? Now, there
might be erroneous
now that you know about that I don't, because I've been doing media all day. But the story all day.
Yeah, I think that was actually in the document. I read it as it came out.
Well, it's the wrong document, Tucker.
It's definitely the wrong.
Yeah,
that's
the
wrong document. We're not getting rid of fossil fuels, actually, even though you just said we were. Because
no, we're rendering them obsolete for most purposes they're used for now, right?
But air travel is a huge source.
Do you mean like building all the shit you're talking about?
Before, right? We eliminate them for most purposes for which they're used now by rendering them obsolete.
So I've got 2 gasoline-powered cars at home.
Yes, but imagine how much better it's going to be when it's cost-effective to drive electric cars. But that can't be done simply by individuals, right? You have to coordinate. You have to have charging stations everywhere. And, of course, individuals can't do that, right? So in that sense, the government is acting like a kind of orchestra conductor here. We're trying to coordinate some of that stuff that can only be centrally coordinated and then enable everybody to act individually without that framework, right?
Yeah, that doesn't, I don't fully understand what you're saying, but let me just, I mean, on the low end, this would be the most expensive thing that the United States has ever undertaken, including rural electrification, the Second World War. And I'm just kind of wondering, in a country that's got more debt than it has GDP, how would we pay for that?
Well, here's the key, right? Remember that we racked up enormous debt to finance the Second World War effort and the New Deal and, of course, the interstate highway system in the 50s.
90%.
So here's the key point. Here's a takeaway. I want you to remember this. I hope everybody will remember this. Remember that inflation is a relation, right? It's the relation between the quantity of money and the quantity of goods. Now, if the money that you're spending is resulting in the production of a great many more goods, you have no inflation problem. More production absorbs more expenditure. The problem with the $7 trillion that was spent during the Bush years and, of course, the last tax cut was that it wasn't actually productive. But note that even that didn't bring about inflation.
But we're still not getting close to it. And by the way, I'm just getting all this in my ear, and we're actually going to follow up on this next week. That unwilling to work line, which you're obviously embarrassed about, and you should be, of course.
No, I'm not embarrassed. It's not embarrassing. No, Tucker, no. We're not embarrassed by what's not ours. No, Tucker, we're not embarrassed by what's not ours. Okay? We want to clarify that it's not ours. Yes, we are.
We're going to prove it one way or the other, and I hope you will come back.
I will.
Professor, thank you.
Thanks so much.
I'm glad. I'm always grateful when people intersect. Come on, including you.
I forgot about
that. I always love the way that he ends those things. Oh, so good.
Oh my God, that was that you can tell that guy was just so happy to be on TV. He was just so happy to be on TV.
So I put
they shoved his ass out there like, go say some lies, buddy.
There's a neat link, a clip in the chats that I'm throwing down so that people can see it when they rewatch this shit. But basically, there's this YouTuber named Thunderfoot, and he does a video about why Tesla batteries suck. And basically, it's because the energy storage density is so terrible for the weight. And then on top of it, they talk about doing hydrogen-powered cars. And the problem with that is, well, danger. And 2, you're still not going to get nearly as much energy density out of hydrogen as you would with actual gasoline.
Of course not. Gasoline.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's a thing. Scientists know that.
Right. And that's why we haven't, adopted full electric, across the nation. When it comes down to it, it's inefficient charging. It's inefficient storage. And it doesn't go far enough. So there's not enough adoption throughout the nation for it to be a thing. So her whole idea that, we're going to be on electric cars in 10 years is such a New York perspective on things. It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
And even in New York, they don't have supercharging stations everywhere.
Nope.
Well, she just doesn't even know what she's talking about anyway, like at all.
Well, it is what it is. We're not going to watch the Tesla battery clip because that's literally a 22-minute video, but it's very good. I got to say that guy Thunderfoot, he knows a lot about what he's talking about. I don't always agree with him politically, but that is a damn good video. He is actually he's a huge critic of Elon Musk's, man. He does not like the guy at all. He thinks he's a hack. He thinks that Elon Musk is constantly reinventing the wheel.
Could be. Or well, could be.
Well, that's about the end of our show. You wanna take us out there?
Oh, yes, all right. All right, there we go. All right, then. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining us, of course. Hope everybody has an awesome weekend ahead of them. Shout out to Solid MAGA for putting all this together for us. Shout out to Sentry for being as awesome as he is. And
shout out to you for doing all of our graphics and finding us some music and getting all these accounts set up.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
And fixing your computer.
Well, all right then. That's about it. We're gonna call it a day. Be sure to tune in next week, hopefully around the same time. And we'll probably have some more videos coming out for you later in the week. And as always, buy water. You think I wasn't gonna bring that to this? Come on.